Most people believe their lives will change someday. Someday when they have more time, more money, more confidence, more motivation. But someday is the most dangerous word in the human language. Your future is not waiting for a miracle. It's waiting for a pattern. The next 21 days can either become 21 more days of excuses or the beginning of a completely different identity. This audiobook is not about feeling inspired. It's about becoming someone who keeps promises to themselves every single day. For the next 21 days, you will not chase perfection. You will build proof. And once you build enough proof, your life will never return to who you used to be. Chapter 1. Stop waiting. Start day 1. Most people don't fail because they lack intelligence. They don't fail because they lack talent. They don't fail because they were born unlucky. They fail because they keep waiting. Waiting for Monday. Waiting for next month. Waiting until life becomes less stressful. Waiting until they feel motivated. Waiting until they feel confident. Waiting until they finally become ready. Here's the truth. Ready is a feeling. Action is a decision. And feelings are unreliable. You have a choice. You can continue waiting for your emotions to give you permission. Or you can become the kind of person who acts before emotions agree. That's the key. The biggest lie you've ever believed is that change begins with motivation. It doesn't. Motivation comes and goes like the weather. Some mornings you'll wake up energized. Other mornings you'll question everything. If your progress depends on your mood, your future will always be unstable. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. Discipline asks what needs to be done. That's why this audiobook isn't about becoming inspired. It's about becoming dependable. Dependable to yourself. Because every time you say you'll do something and then don't, you're teaching yourself a dangerous lesson. You're teaching yourself that your own words don't matter. Every broken promise weakens trust. Not someone else's trust. Your own. And without self-trust, confidence slowly disappears. Confidence isn't created by compliments. It's created by evidence. Evidence that you finish. Evidence that you show up. Evidence that you do what you said you would do. That's why action creates belief, not the other way around. Remember those words. Action creates belief, not the other way around. Most people think they'll believe first, then they'll act. Reality works in reverse. You act first, then belief follows. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. Did confidence come before the first ride? Of course not. You climbed onto the bicycle while feeling uncertain. You wobbled. You probably fell. You looked awkward. But every attempt became proof. Eventually, confidence appeared. Not because someone gave it to you, because you earned it. The same principle applies to every meaningful change. No one feels completely ready to launch a business. No one feels completely ready to become a parent. No one feels completely ready to change careers. No one feels completely ready to write a book. Yet those who transform their lives all have something in common. They begin before certainty arrives. They understand something most people never learn. Movement creates clarity. Waiting creates confusion. Think about the people you admire. The entrepreneur who built a successful company. The athlete who became a champion. The artist whose work changed millions. Do you honestly believe they started without fear? No. They simply refused to let fear make decisions. They accepted uncertainty as the price of growth. You have a choice. Every day you delay, you're not protecting yourself. You're practicing hesitation. And whatever you practice becomes permanent. Practice excuses. You become someone who makes excuses. Practice avoidance. You become someone who avoids. Practice action. You become someone who acts. Identity is never built in one dramatic moment. Identity is built in ordinary moments repeated over time. That's why the next 21 days matter. Not because 21 is magical. Not because science guarantees everything changes overnight, but because repetition changes identity. Every day becomes another vote, a vote for the person you're becoming. Imagine placing one brick every day. One brick doesn't look impressive. Neither do 2, or 5, or even 10. But after weeks, months, years, you suddenly realize you've built an entire house. Success works exactly the same way. One decision, repeated consistently. That's why your job isn't to change your entire life today. Your job is much smaller, much simpler. Just begin. Beginning has incredible power because beginning destroys fantasy. Fantasy says you'll change someday. Beginning says today. Fantasy waits for perfect conditions. Beginning works with today's conditions. Fantasy dreams. Beginning builds. That's the difference. Action creates belief, not the other way around. You'll hear that again, because you need to. Repetition creates transformation. Every time you hear that sentence, your brain begins replacing an old belief. The old belief says, "I'll start when I feel confident." The new belief says, "I'll become confident because I started." That's the key. Now let's establish one simple rule. For the next 21 days, decisions matter more than feelings. Read that again. Decisions matter more than feelings. Some mornings you'll feel tired. Do the habit anyway. Some evenings you'll feel distracted. Do the habit anyway. Some days you'll think your effort doesn't matter. Do it anyway. Why? Because feelings are temporary. Identity is permanent. It's not about motivation. It's about consistency. It's not about intensity. It's about repetition. It's not about perfection. It's about showing up. Notice how freeing that is. You don't have to be amazing today. You don't have to transform overnight. You don't have to outperform everyone else. You simply have to outperform yesterday's version of yourself. 1%. One decision. One promise kept. That's enough. People often imagine transformation as something dramatic. A giant breakthrough. A life-changing event. An unforgettable moment. But lasting transformation is usually quiet. No applause, no celebration, no audience. Just one person, making one better decision. Again, and again, and again. That's how lives change, not through extraordinary days, through ordinary days lived differently. You don't need everyone's approval. You don't need everyone's understanding. You don't need their permission. You only need today's decision. That's the key. Let's make this practical. For the next 21 days, choose one habit. Not 10. 1. Wake up 30 minutes earlier. Walk every morning. Read 10 pages. Write 1 page. Exercise for 20 minutes. Meditate for 5. Drink more water. Practice gratitude. The habit matters less than the consistency. Because you're not training the habit. You're training the identity behind it. Every completed day whispers something powerful to your subconscious. I keep my word. I finish what I start. I can depend on myself. Eventually, those whispers become beliefs. Then, those beliefs become actions. Then, those actions become your life. Action creates belief, not the other way around. Never forget that. When you miss one day, and eventually you probably will, don't make the second mistake. Missing one day is an event. Quitting is a decision. Stand back up immediately. Continue. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is becoming someone who always returns. Because winners don't avoid failure, they avoid staying down. You have a choice. Every sunrise asks the same question. Will today be another excuse or another piece of evidence? Evidence that you're changing. Evidence that you're growing. Evidence that you're becoming someone different. Today is day 1. Not because the calendar says so, because you decided it is. That decision changes everything. Remember, you're not trying to change your entire life today. You're proving something much more important. You're proving that you're someone who begins. And once you've learned to begin, the next challenge is learning to own the first hours of every single day. Because the way you start your morning often determines the person you'll become before the sun goes down. Chapter 2. Win the first hour. Win the entire day. Every day begins long before you realize it. It begins the moment your eyes open. Not when you arrive at work. Not when you answer your first email. Not when you sit down to study. Your day begins with the very first decision you make. Do you get up, or do you negotiate with yourself? That single moment matters more than most people understand. Because the first decision creates the second. The second creates the third. Before long, your entire day is following a pattern that started within the first 60 minutes. That's why the first hour is never just 1 hour. It is the emotional blueprint for everything that follows. You don't control your future. You control your morning. Remember that. You don't control your future. You control your morning. Most people wake up and immediately surrender control. Before they've even taken a full breath, they're scrolling through notifications, checking messages, reading headlines, watching videos, comparing their lives to strangers. Their mind hasn't chosen a direction. The world has chosen it for them. Without realizing it, they've handed over their attention before they've even claimed it. And attention is one of the most valuable resources you will ever possess. Where your attention goes, your energy follows. Where your energy goes, your life follows. That's the key. A reactive morning creates a reactive life. Think about what happens when you begin the day by reacting. A stressful email raises your anxiety. A negative news story lowers your mood. Someone else's success makes you question your own progress. A social media argument steals your patience before breakfast. None of those things were your priorities. Yet they became your reality because you allowed them to enter your mind first. Now compare that to an intentional morning. You wake up, you breathe, you drink water, you move your body. You spend a few quiet moments with your own thoughts instead of everyone else's opinions. You decide what matters before the world tells you what should matter. The difference is enormous. One person begins the day by consuming. The other begins the day by creating. One reacts, the other leads. One follows urgency, the other follows purpose. You have a choice. Every single morning, you cast the first vote for the person you are becoming. That vote happens before anyone sees you, before anyone praises you, before anyone criticizes you. Because real discipline is private. No one applauds the person who gets out of bed when the alarm rings. No one celebrates the person who stretches for 10 minutes. No one hands out trophies for drinking a glass of water instead of grabbing their phone. But those invisible decisions shape visible results. Success is built in moments that nobody notices. That's the key. You don't control your future. You control your morning. Let's make this practical. For the next 21 days, your first hour follows a simple framework. Not because it's complicated, because simplicity is repeatable. Step 1. Wake up when you said you would, not when you feel like it. When you made the promise yesterday, you already decided. Don't renegotiate with yourself. Every time you hit the snooze button, you're teaching your brain that your own commitments are optional. Every time you stand up immediately, you're teaching yourself something stronger. I do what I said I would do. That's identity. Step 2. Hydrate. Your body has gone hours without water, before caffeine, before sugar, before distraction. Give your body what it actually needs. This isn't just about health, it's about momentum. The first action of your day should be one that serves you. Small actions matter. Never underestimate them. It's not about drinking one perfect glass of water. It's about becoming someone who starts by taking care of themselves. Step 3. Move your body. You don't need an intense workout. You don't need expensive equipment. You don't need 90 minutes. Walk. Stretch. Do a few push-ups. Practice yoga. Take the stairs. Wake your muscles before you ask your mind to perform. Movement changes your state. Energy isn't something you wait for. It's something you create. People often say they're too tired to exercise. Ironically, movement is often the very thing that creates the energy they believe they're missing. Action creates energy. Waiting creates inertia. That's the key. Step 4. Protect your attention. This may be the hardest step in the modern world. Do not check social media immediately. Do not open endless notifications. Do not allow strangers to occupy your mind before you've occupied it yourself. Every notification is someone else's agenda. Every distraction asks for a piece of your life. And if you keep giving away small pieces, eventually you'll wonder where your focus disappeared. Attention leaks don't look dangerous. They feel harmless. Just one video. Just one headline. Just one message. But one becomes 20. 20 becomes 60. Before long, your best mental hours belong to someone else. Protect them. You don't need their permission to disconnect. You don't owe the internet your first hour. You owe yourself that hour. Step 5. Decide the most important task of the day. Just one, not 20. Not an overwhelming list. One meaningful action that moves your life forward. Ask yourself one question. If everything else went wrong today, what one completed task would still make this day a success? Write it down. Then commit to finishing it. Notice what happens when your priorities become clear. Decision fatigue begins to disappear. You stop wasting energy wondering what to do next. The answer is already waiting for you. One important task. Finished. That's progress. You don't control your future. You control your morning. People often imagine productivity as working harder. But productivity is usually the result of deciding earlier. When your morning is intentional, your afternoon becomes simpler. When your morning is chaotic, your afternoon becomes recovery. You spend the rest of the day trying to fix what the first hour broke. That's exhausting. Instead, build momentum immediately. Momentum is powerful because success loves acceleration. Once you've completed one positive action, the next becomes easier. Drink water. Now stretching feels natural. Stretch. Now reading 10 pages feels possible. Read 10 pages. Now starting your important task doesn't feel intimidating. One disciplined decision pulls another behind it like connected train cars. The opposite is also true. Oversleep. Scroll your phone. Rush out the door. Forget breakfast. Arrive stressed. React to everything. One poor decision also creates momentum. Just in the wrong direction. That's why mornings deserve your attention. Not because they're magical, because they're predictable. What you repeatedly do between waking up and beginning your work quietly becomes the architect of your life. Look at someone who is calm under pressure. You rarely see the invisible preparation behind that calm. Look at someone who consistently reaches their goals. You rarely see the ordinary mornings that built extraordinary years. Great lives are rarely dramatic. They're remarkably consistent. The first hour reflects that truth. You have a choice. Every sunrise offers you another opportunity to cast a vote for distraction, or a vote for discipline, a vote for comfort, or a vote for growth, a vote for your old identity, or a vote for the person you are becoming. Never underestimate a single morning. One morning won't change your life, but one morning repeated hundreds of times absolutely will. That's how identities are built, not through giant leaps, through quiet routines, through promises kept before anyone else is awake, through choices nobody applauds. You don't control your future. You control your morning. Repeat it until you believe it, then repeat it until you live it. Because every intentional morning becomes another piece of evidence. Evidence that you're becoming dependable. Evidence that you're becoming disciplined. Evidence that you're becoming the kind of person who doesn't wait for life to happen. They create it. You have learned how to own the first hour. Now it's time to strengthen something even more important. Because winning your morning means very little if you can't trust yourself to keep your own word. Chapter 3. Keep promises to yourself first. There is one relationship that determines the quality of every other relationship in your life. It isn't the relationship with your family. It isn't the relationship with your friends. It isn't even the relationship with your career. It's the relationship you have with yourself. And every single day, that relationship is either becoming stronger or weaker. Not because of what other people say, because of what you do. Most people believe confidence is something that appears after success. They think confidence comes from compliments, recognition, achievements, money, status. But that's not how real confidence works. Real confidence is private. It is built long before anyone notices it. It begins with one simple question. Can you trust yourself? Think about that carefully. If you tell a friend you'll meet them at 7 o'clock, you probably show up. If your employer expects a project by Friday, you work to finish it. If someone important asks you for a favor, you usually find a way. But what happens when you make yourself a promise? I'll wake up earlier. I'll start exercising. I'll finish this book. I'll save more money. I'll stop procrastinating. I'll finally have that difficult conversation. How often do those promises quietly disappear? Not because life became impossible, because your emotions changed. That's the problem. Every broken promise sends a message to your subconscious. It says, "My own words don't matter." You may not hear that sentence consciously, but your mind hears it every time, again and again and again. Eventually, your subconscious reaches a conclusion. This person cannot be trusted. The painful truth is this: that person is you. You have a choice. You can continue breaking promises to yourself, or you can begin rebuilding trust one decision at a time. That's the key. Confidence is not granted externally. Confidence is earned internally. No amount of praise can replace self-trust. Imagine someone telling you every day, "You're amazing. You can do anything. Believe in yourself." Those words feel good for a moment, but if you continuously fail to keep your own commitments, those compliments begin to sound empty. Because your actions are louder than everyone else's encouragement. Your mind always believes behavior more than words. Behavior is evidence, and evidence creates belief. Every promise kept becomes evidence. Remember that. Every promise kept becomes evidence. Let's look at something ordinary. You decide to work out 3 times this week. Monday comes. You skip it. You tell yourself you'll make up for it tomorrow. Tuesday arrives. You're busy. Wednesday comes. Now you feel guilty. By Thursday, you've stopped thinking about exercising altogether. What happened? You didn't simply skip a workout. You taught yourself something. You taught yourself that your commitments are negotiable. The workout was never the biggest loss. Self-trust was. Now think about a different version of the same story. Monday arrives. You don't feel motivated. You exercise anyway. Maybe only for 15 minutes. Maybe it's not your best workout. But you finish. Now something invisible happens. Your brain records a piece of evidence. I follow through. The workout ends. The identity grows. Every promise kept becomes evidence. That's why tiny victories matter far more than dramatic achievements. People love dramatic transformations. The incredible weight loss. The $1 million business. The best-selling book. The championship trophy. But those visible victories are built upon thousands of invisible promises. Promises nobody witnessed. Promises nobody applauded. Promises that quietly shaped identity. You don't become disciplined on the day you succeed. You become disciplined on the ordinary Tuesday when nobody is watching and you still do the work. That's the key. Now think about unfinished projects. Almost everyone has one. A course they never completed. A language they meant to learn. A business idea they abandoned. A guitar collecting dust in the corner. A notebook filled with exciting plans that never became reality. The unfinished project doesn't simply occupy physical space. It occupies mental space. Every unfinished commitment whispers the same sentence. You never finish. You may not consciously hear it, but your brain remembers. Every abandoned goal becomes another reference point. Eventually, you stop believing you're someone who finishes, not because you lack ability, because you've accumulated years of contradictory evidence. Fortunately, the opposite is equally true. Every promise kept becomes evidence. Finish 1 chapter. Evidence. Complete 1 workout. Evidence. Save $20. Evidence. Wake up on time. Evidence. Read 10 pages. Evidence. Prepare a healthy meal. Evidence. None of these actions look impressive. But together, they begin rewriting the story you've been telling yourself for years. Your identity changes through accumulation, not through one heroic moment. Consider another common example. There is someone you need to speak with. Maybe it's an apology you've been avoiding. Maybe it's setting a boundary. Maybe it's admitting a mistake. Maybe it's expressing appreciation. You keep delaying the conversation. Tomorrow. Next week. When the timing feels better, days become months. Months become years. Every delay increases the emotional weight. Eventually, the conversation becomes terrifying. Not because of the conversation itself, because avoidance has grown stronger than courage. Now imagine making the call today. Is it uncomfortable? Absolutely. Does your voice shake? Maybe. Do you still survive? Yes. And afterward, something extraordinary happens. You don't just resolve a conversation. You prove that fear no longer controls your behavior. Every promise kept becomes evidence. Notice the pattern. Your life changes less through massive decisions than through repeated demonstrations of integrity. Integrity isn't only about being honest with other people. Integrity begins with being honest with yourself. If you say you'll do something, do it. If you cannot do it, adjust the commitment honestly. Don't silently abandon it. Because every silent abandonment leaves another crack in self-trust. Many people spend years trying to increase confidence while ignoring the real solution. They read motivational books, watch inspirational videos, listen to powerful speeches. Those things can encourage you. But encouragement without execution fades quickly. Action lasts. It's not about inspiration. It's about integrity. It's not about motivation. It's about keeping your word. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming dependable. Dependable people trust themselves. They don't wonder whether they'll show up. They already know. That's real confidence. You don't need anyone else's permission to become dependable. You don't need validation before taking action. You only need one completed promise. Then another. Then another. Think of self-trust as a savings account. Every promise you keep is a deposit. Every promise you break is a withdrawal. Many people spend years making withdrawals without realizing it. Then they wonder why confidence feels bankrupt. The solution isn't complicated. Start making deposits again, one at a time. Every promise kept becomes evidence. Let's make this practical. For the remainder of these 21 days, make only promises you fully intend to keep. Not unrealistic promises. Not promises designed to impress yourself. Simple promises. Reachable promises. Repeatable promises. If you decide to walk for 20 minutes, then walk. If you decide to read 10 pages, then read. If you decide to wake up at 6:30, then stand up when the alarm rings. Protect these commitments as if someone else's future depended on them, because in a very real sense, your future does. Each completed promise strengthens your identity. Each completed promise makes the next one easier. Momentum begins quietly. Then it becomes unstoppable. One day, you'll notice something different. You no longer argue with yourself before taking action. You simply begin. Not because the work became easier, because you've become someone who trusts their own word. That is one of the greatest forms of freedom a human being can experience. You have a choice. Continue collecting evidence that you cannot rely on yourself, or begin collecting evidence that you can. Remember this. Every promise kept becomes evidence. Every small victory becomes another brick in the foundation of unshakable self-trust. And once you trust yourself, discipline stops feeling like punishment. It starts feeling like identity. Now that you've learned to keep your word, it's time to make consistency almost impossible to fail. Because lasting transformation doesn't require giant efforts. It requires small actions that are too simple to skip. Chapter 4. Make discipline smaller than excuses. Most people don't fail because their goals are too small. They fail because their expectations are too big. They decide that tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow they'll wake up at 5, run 5 miles, read 50 pages, meditate for an hour, completely change their diet. Finish 3 months of unfinished work. Become a brand new person overnight. For one day, they might actually do it. Then reality arrives. They're tired, busy, stressed. Life becomes complicated. The routine collapses, not because they lacked potential, because they tried to build a mountain before learning how to lay a single brick. That's the mistake. People overestimate what they can do in one day and underestimate what they can do in 1 year. You have a choice. You can continue chasing dramatic bursts of motivation, or you can build a system so small that excuses no longer have anywhere to hide. That's the key. Consistency beats intensity. Every single time. The world celebrates intensity. The viral transformation. The 30-day makeover. The overnight success story. But life rarely works that way. Real transformation is almost invisible. It happens in quiet moments. 1 page read, One healthy meal. One short walk. One promise kept. Repeat it again tomorrow. Then the day after that. Then the day after that. Small done every day defeats perfect done someday. Remember those words. Small done every day defeats perfect done someday. Perfection is exciting. Consistency is ordinary. And ordinary wins. Imagine two people. The first spends 8 hours exercising on Saturday, then doesn't move again for the next 3 weeks. The second walks 20 minutes every day. Who changes more after a year? The answer is obvious. Not because 20 minutes is impressive. Because repetition always defeats occasional intensity. The same principle applies to money, relationships, learning, business, health, character. Everything valuable grows through repetition, not explosion. Think about how a tree grows. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly see it towering over the landscape. Growth happens slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. Yet every single day, the roots spread a little deeper. The trunk grows a little stronger. The branches reach a little higher. Most people quit because they mistake slow progress for no progress. That's a dangerous misunderstanding. Slow progress is still progress. The key is refusing to stop. That's where the minimum standard changes everything. The minimum standard is simple. No matter how difficult the day becomes, you complete the smallest version of the habit, not the perfect version, the smallest version. Never allow zero. Those 3 words can change your life. Never allow zero. Let's say your goal is to read. Some days you'll read 30 pages. Wonderful. Other days you'll feel exhausted. Read 1 page. 1 page still counts. Your goal is exercise. Some mornings you'll complete a full workout. Other mornings life becomes chaotic. Do 10 push-ups. Walk around the block. Stretch for 5 minutes. Still counts. Your goal is writing. On great days, you'll write 2,000 words. On terrible days, write 1 sentence. Still counts. Because the purpose isn't to impress anyone. The purpose is to protect your identity. You're proving something much more valuable than productivity. You're proving consistency. That's the key. People often ask, does 1 page really make a difference? The page isn't the point. The identity is. The push-up isn't the point. The identity is. The 5-minute walk isn't the point. The identity is. You're teaching your brain something powerful. I never stop. Once your brain believes that, everything changes. Think about brushing your teeth. Do you wake up every morning overflowing with motivation to brush your teeth? Probably not. You simply do it. Why? Because it's part of who you are. You don't debate it. You don't negotiate it. You don't wait until you feel inspired. Identity has removed the decision. That's exactly what discipline should become. Not something you occasionally perform. Something you naturally are. Small done every day defeats perfect done someday. Say it again. Small done every day defeats perfect done someday. Momentum always matters more than motivation. Motivation is emotional. Momentum is mechanical. Motivation disappears when life becomes difficult. Momentum carries you through difficult days. Picture a large wheel sitting still. The first push requires enormous effort. The second push is slightly easier. By the 10th push, the wheel begins moving on its own. Your habits work exactly the same way. The hardest part is beginning. Once momentum exists, continuing requires far less energy. That's why 0 is dangerous. When you stop completely, the wheel comes to a halt. Now you must fight gravity all over again. Never allow 0. Even the smallest action keeps the wheel turning. Let's talk about bad days. Because they are coming. You will get sick. You'll lose sleep. You'll experience disappointment. Unexpected problems will interrupt your plans. Life doesn't ask whether you're working on becoming disciplined. It simply happens. This is where most people quit. They say, "I'll start again next Monday. I'll restart next month. I've already ruined this week." No, you haven't ruined anything. You've simply had one difficult day. Don't turn one bad day into 30 bad days. One missed workout doesn't destroy your progress. Quitting does. One unhealthy meal doesn't destroy your health. Giving up does. One late morning doesn't destroy discipline. Accepting mediocrity does. You have a choice. Protect the streak. Not because streaks are magical, because streaks protect identity. Every completed day tells your subconscious, "I am still this person, even if today's version is smaller." The smallest version still matters. Imagine a bridge. Each habit you complete places another plank across that bridge. Some planks are large, some are tiny, but every plank moves you closer to the other side. The only dangerous day is the day you stop building altogether. That's why successful people think differently. They don't ask, "How much can I accomplish today?" They ask, "What's the minimum I refuse to skip?" That question changes everything. Because now, success becomes almost guaranteed. You can always read one page. You can always do 1 minute of stretching. You can always write one paragraph. You can always drink one glass of water. You can always spend 1 minute planning tomorrow. Your excuses begin disappearing because the task is simply too small to avoid. It's not about weakness. It's about intelligent design. Build habits that survive bad days. Anyone can be disciplined on perfect days. Perfect days require no discipline. Real discipline appears on ordinary Wednesdays. Rainy mornings, stressful afternoons, long work days, family emergencies, moments when no one would blame you for quitting. Those are the moments that shape identity. Because every time you continue despite inconvenience, you strengthen something invisible. Your standards. Standards determine behavior far more than goals. Goals say, "I want this." Standards say, "This is who I am." That's the difference. You don't need their permission to maintain your standards. You don't need applause for doing the smallest version of your habit. Most people won't even notice. That's fine. This isn't about proving anything to them. It's about proving something to yourself. Every small action becomes another vote, another piece of evidence, another brick in your foundation. Over weeks, those bricks become walls. Over months, they become a house. Over years, they become a life that looks extraordinary to people who only notice the finished result. They never saw the tiny actions, the ordinary mornings, the 5-minute walks, the single pages, the small promises quietly kept. That's where greatness is built. Not in extraordinary moments. In ordinary moments repeated with extraordinary consistency. Remember this whenever you're tempted to skip a habit because it seems too small to matter. The habit isn't small. The habit is a vote. And every vote shapes your future identity. Small done every day defeats perfect done someday. Momentum always matters more than motivation. Never allow zero. Live by those 3 principles, and your life will begin changing in ways that feel almost invisible, until one day, everyone else notices what you quietly became. You have learned how to make discipline sustainable. Now it's time to protect the one resource that determines whether discipline can survive in the modern world. Because even the strongest habits cannot grow inside a constantly distracted mind. Chapter 5. Protect your mind. Like it's your greatest asset. There is one resource more valuable than money, more valuable than talent, more valuable than connections, more valuable than time itself. It is your attention, because money can be earned again. Opportunities can return, skills can be learned. But every moment of attention you give away becomes part of your life that you never get back. That's why protecting your attention is no longer optional. It is survival. Guard your attention because your attention becomes your life. Remember those words. Guard your attention because your attention becomes your life. Most people believe they have an information problem. They don't. They have an attention problem. Every day they consume thousands of words, hundreds of images, dozens of opinions, breaking news, social media posts, videos, advertisements, arguments, notifications. By lunchtime, their mind has traveled through more emotional experiences than previous generations experienced in an entire week, and they wonder why they feel exhausted. The human brain was never designed to carry the weight of endless stimulation. Yet that has become normal, not because it is healthy, because it is convenient. You have a choice. You can continue feeding your mind everything the world offers. Or you can become selective. That's the key. Discipline doesn't begin with controlling your actions. It begins with controlling what enters your mind. Think about your body. You already understand that food matters. If you eat junk food every day, eventually your body reflects those choices. Your mind works exactly the same way. Mental junk creates mental weakness. Mental nutrition creates mental strength. The frightening part is that mental junk rarely feels dangerous. It feels entertaining. One short video, one quick headline, one harmless notification, one more scroll. 5 minutes become 30. 30 become 90. Then you look up and wonder where your morning disappeared. The time wasn't stolen. It was surrendered. That's an important distinction. No one forced you. The decision happened one tiny choice at a time. Guard your attention because your attention becomes your life. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. Before your feet touch the floor, you reach for your phone. You check messages. Nothing urgent. Then email. Then the news. Then social media. Someone bought a new house. Someone got promoted. Someone traveled somewhere beautiful. Someone has an opinion that makes you angry. Someone else appears to have a perfect life. Within 15 minutes, you've experienced envy, comparison, stress, curiosity, frustration, fear, excitement, disappointment. And your own day hasn't even begun. Now ask yourself an honest question. Who chose those emotions? Did you? Or did the algorithm? Most people lose the day before breakfast because they consume instead of create. That's the tragedy. Before they have written one sentence, solved one problem, learned one meaningful lesson, or completed one important task. Their mind is already crowded with everyone else's priorities. You don't need their permission to disconnect. You don't owe the world immediate access to your attention. You owe yourself clarity. That's the key. Think of your attention as a garden. Every piece of information is a seed. Some seeds grow into discipline. Others grow into distraction. Some produce wisdom. Others produce anxiety. Whether you notice it or not, your garden is always growing something. The only question is this: who is planting the seeds? If you don't choose intentionally, someone else will. Companies compete for your attention because they understand its value. Every notification is asking for a few seconds of your life. A few seconds doesn't sound significant until you multiply it by hundreds of interruptions every single day. Tiny distractions create massive consequences. Research, creativity, deep thinking, and meaningful work all require uninterrupted focus. But constant interruption trains your brain to expect novelty. You become uncomfortable with silence, uncomfortable with stillness, uncomfortable with concentration. Eventually, even reading 10 pages of a book begins to feel difficult. Not because books changed, because your attention span did. That's why reading remains one of the most powerful forms of mental training. Reading forces your mind to remain with one idea, one argument, one story, one lesson. There are no flashing notifications inside a good book, no endless scrolling, no algorithm deciding what you should think next. Just sustained attention. And sustained attention builds sustained discipline. You don't have to read 50 books this year. Start with 10 pages a day. Remember what you've already learned. Small done every day defeats perfect done someday. 10 pages today become 3,000 pages in a year. 3,000 pages become hundreds of new ideas. Hundreds of ideas become a different way of thinking. Transformation begins quietly. Silence is another form of mental nutrition. Most people are afraid of silence. The moment they find themselves alone, they immediately reach for stimulation. Music, videos, podcasts, television, conversation, anything to avoid hearing their own thoughts. But growth often requires silence, because silence reveals what distraction hides. It reveals the fears you've been avoiding, the dreams you've been postponing, the conversations you've been delaying, the habits you've been excusing. Silence can be uncomfortable, but discomfort often points toward growth. That's the key. Spend a few minutes every day without consuming anything. No screen, no music, no conversation. Just think. Ask yourself simple questions. What kind of person am I becoming? What distracted me yesterday? What deserves my attention today? What doesn't? Thinking is becoming a rare skill. Not because people lack intelligence, because they rarely create space for it. The world rewards reaction. Wisdom rewards reflection. Guard your attention because your attention becomes your life. Comparison is another thief disguised as entertainment. Social media encourages you to compare your ordinary moments with someone else's highlight reel. You see their victories, rarely their struggles. You see the finished product, rarely the years of invisible work. Then you unfairly judge your own progress. Comparison steals gratitude. Comparison steals patience. Comparison steals confidence. Remember this. Someone else's Chapter 20 should never make you ashamed of your Chapter 2. Stay focused on your own journey. Your goal isn't to become someone else. Your goal is to become more completely yourself. Every minute spent comparing is a minute not spent improving. You have a choice. Invest your attention, or spend it carelessly. There is a difference. People carefully budget money, but waste attention without hesitation. Imagine treating your attention the way successful investors treat money. Every investment has to produce value. Before opening an app, ask yourself, what am I expecting to gain? Before reading another article, ask, will this improve my life? Before entering another argument online, ask, is this worth a piece of my future? Simple questions create powerful filters. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every controversy deserves your emotional energy. Not every invitation deserves your time. Learning to say no protects your ability to say yes to what truly matters. That's discipline. It's not about doing everything. It's about refusing what weakens you. Let's make this practical. For the next 21 days, create a mental filter. Read before you scroll. Think before you react. Create before you consume. Protect your first hour. Silence unnecessary notifications. Leave your phone in another room while you work. Carry a book with you. Take short walks without headphones. End each evening with reflection instead of endless scrolling. These aren't dramatic changes. They're small adjustments. Repeated daily. Just as you've learned throughout this journey. Your environment influences your identity. If distraction surrounds you, discipline must constantly fight for survival. If clarity surrounds you, discipline begins to grow naturally. You don't become mentally strong by accident. You become mentally strong by carefully choosing what enters your mind. Guard your attention because your attention becomes your life. Repeat it until it becomes automatic. Because one day you'll realize something extraordinary. Your mind feels calmer. Your thoughts become clearer. Your decisions become stronger. Your emotions become steadier. Not because life became easier, because you finally stopped allowing everything into your mental world. Attention is the doorway to identity. Protect the doorway, and you protect the person you're becoming. You have learned how to defend your mind from distraction. Now it is time to strengthen your ability to move forward, even when every part of you wants to stay comfortable. Because discipline ultimately demands one thing that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Discomfort. Chapter 6. Become comfortable. Being uncomfortable. Your brain has one primary job. It is not to make you successful. It is not to make you wealthy. It is not to help you reach your highest potential. Its first responsibility is much simpler. Keep you alive. For thousands of years, that instinct protected human beings. If something felt unfamiliar, the brain treated it as a possible threat. Stay close to the tribe. Avoid unnecessary risks. Conserve energy. Repeat what already works. Those instincts helped our ancestors survive. But in the modern world, those same instincts often become the greatest obstacle to growth. Because almost everything that improves your life feels uncomfortable at first. The uncomfortable conversation, the first workout, the first business, the first speech, the first investment, the first morning waking up early. Growth rarely feels safe. That's why so many people confuse discomfort with danger. They are not the same thing. Discomfort is not danger. It is evidence that you're expanding. Remember those words. Discomfort is not danger. It is evidence that you're expanding. Most people spend their lives designing comfort, a comfortable schedule, a comfortable income, comfortable opinions, comfortable routines, comfortable friendships, comfortable habits. Then they wonder why nothing changes. Nothing changes because comfort is designed to preserve who you already are. Growth demands something different. Growth demands friction. Think about building muscle. The gym doesn't make you stronger because lifting weights is comfortable. It makes you stronger because resistance forces adaptation. Every repetition creates tiny tears inside the muscle. The body responds by rebuilding those muscles stronger than before. Your character develops exactly the same way. Resistance creates resilience. Difficulty creates discipline. Pressure creates strength. Without resistance, there is no adaptation. Without discomfort, there is no expansion. That's the key. You have a choice. You can continue organizing your life around comfort, or you can organize it around growth. Those are very different lives. Imagine someone deciding to exercise for the first time. The alarm rings early. Their body wants another hour of sleep. Their mind immediately begins negotiating. You can start tomorrow. You've had a stressful week. You deserve a break. Notice something important. The brain always sounds reasonable. Excuses rarely sound ridiculous. They sound logical. That's why they're dangerous. The person who grows recognizes that voice, but they don't obey it. They get out of bed anyway, not because they enjoy discomfort, because they understand what discomfort produces. Discomfort is not danger. It is evidence that you're expanding. The same principle applies to public speaking. Almost everyone feels nervous before standing in front of an audience. Hands shake. Heart races. Thoughts become cloudy. Many people interpret those feelings as a sign that they shouldn't speak. Successful people interpret the exact same feelings differently. They understand nervousness simply means something matters. The discomfort doesn't predict failure. It predicts growth. The first presentation feels terrifying. The 10th feels manageable. The 100th feels natural. What changed? Not the activity, the identity. Repeated discomfort became familiar. That's how courage develops, not by eliminating fear, by moving while fear is present. You don't become brave first and act second. You act despite fear. Then bravery quietly grows. Action creates belief, not the other way around. Remember that lesson. It still applies. Now think about difficult conversations. Perhaps you've needed to tell someone the truth, to apologize, to establish a boundary, to say no, to ask for help. You've delayed it for weeks, maybe months. Every day you postpone the conversation, it becomes larger inside your imagination. Eventually, the anticipation becomes more painful than the conversation itself. Then, one day, you finally speak. Was it uncomfortable? Absolutely. Was it survivable? Yes. Often, it wasn't nearly as terrible as you imagined. Your brain exaggerated the danger because unfamiliar experiences always feel larger before they happen. That's another lesson. Fear often grows in imagination. Confidence grows in action. Discomfort is not danger. It is evidence that you're expanding. Saving money follows the same pattern. Modern culture encourages immediate gratification. Buy now. Upgrade now. Reward yourself now. Everything around you says the same thing. Don't wait. Consume. The disciplined person learns a different language. Delay, invest, prepare, build. When you choose to save instead of spend, your brain often protests. It wants the immediate reward, the immediate excitement. But every dollar saved becomes proof that your future matters more than today's impulse. You're training patience, and patience is one of the rarest forms of strength. Think about waking up early. The first morning feels miserable. The bed feels warmer. The room feels colder. Your mind searches desperately for reasons to stay where you are. Yet after weeks of consistency, something remarkable happens. You begin waking before the alarm. Not because mornings changed, because you changed. Your body adapted. Your identity adapted. The uncomfortable became normal. Never forget that. Everything difficult today has the potential to become ordinary tomorrow, if you repeat it long enough. That's why repetition is so powerful. People often believe successful individuals enjoy discipline more than everyone else. Not necessarily. They've simply repeated disciplined actions until resistance became smaller. The action no longer feels foreign. It feels familiar. Your brain always prefers familiarity. The question is, what are you teaching it to become familiar with? Complaining? Or solving? Procrastinating? Or beginning? Scrolling endlessly? Or reading thoughtfully? Giving up? Or continuing? Every repeated behavior becomes easier, not because life changes, because your brain rewires itself around repetition. That's the key. Let's talk about instant gratification. Few forces quietly destroy potential more effectively. Every notification, every sugary snack, every unnecessary purchase, every hour of mindless entertainment. Each one offers a tiny reward immediately. The future asks you to wait. The present asks you to indulge. Discipline chooses the future, not because the present has no value, because the future deserves protection. You have a choice. Ask yourself one question before every impulse. What will this choice make easier tomorrow? That question changes everything. Eating healthy today makes tomorrow easier. Reading today makes tomorrow easier. Working out today makes tomorrow easier. Saving money today makes tomorrow easier. Having the difficult conversation today makes tomorrow lighter. Temporary discomfort often creates permanent freedom. Temporary comfort often creates permanent regret. Most regrets don't come from moments of courage. They come from moments of avoidance. The opportunity you never took. The conversation you never had. The dream you never pursued. The habit you never started. Avoidance feels comfortable today. Regret feels painful for years. Choose your discomfort wisely, because life guarantees discomfort. You simply decide which version you'll experience: the discomfort of discipline or the discomfort of disappointment. One lasts minutes, the other can last decades. That's why disciplined people willingly choose small daily discomforts: cold showers, early mornings, exercise, reading, practicing, saving, learning. Not because suffering is the goal. Growth is. Discomfort is simply the price. Every morning, seek one manageable discomfort, not something overwhelming, something intentional. Walk when you'd rather sit. Read when you'd rather scroll. Speak when you'd rather stay silent. Save when you'd rather spend. Wake up when you'd rather sleep. One manageable discomfort. Every day, small enough to repeat, powerful enough to change you. Remember everything this book has taught you. Small done every day defeats perfect done someday. Never allow zero. Every promise kept becomes evidence. Action creates belief, not the other way around. Now add one more principle to that foundation. Discomfort is not danger. It is evidence that you're expanding. Repeat it until your mind stops treating growth like a threat. Because one day, you'll notice something extraordinary. The situations that once intimidated you no longer control you. The conversations that once terrified you become routine. The habits that once demanded willpower become automatic. The life that once felt impossible becomes your new normal. Not because you became fearless, because you became familiar with discomfort. That familiarity becomes confidence. Confidence becomes discipline. Discipline becomes identity. And identity shapes destiny. You have now learned to welcome discomfort instead of running from it. The next step is even more important. Because becoming stronger isn't only about adding good habits, it's also about removing the invisible habits that quietly steal your future every single day. Chapter 7. Eliminate the habits that quietly destroy you. Most people imagine that failure arrives all at once. One terrible decision, one catastrophic mistake, one dramatic collapse. But that's rarely how lives fall apart. Lives usually change quietly. One excuse, one delay, one unnecessary purchase, 1 hour of scrolling, one complaint, one unhealthy choice. None of them seem dangerous by themselves. That's exactly why they are dangerous. The habits that quietly destroy your future rarely announce themselves. They arrive disguised as comfort, convenience, entertainment, relief. Just this once. I deserve a break. It won't matter. Those sentences have stolen more dreams than lack of talent ever has. You have a choice. Ignore the small habits because they seem insignificant, or recognize that your life is built from things that seem insignificant. That's the key. You don't rise above your habits. You become them. Remember those words. You don't rise above your habits. You become them. Identity is never created by your intentions. It is created by your repetitions. Your brain doesn't care what you hope to become. It pays attention to what you repeatedly do. If you repeatedly procrastinate, your brain reaches a simple conclusion. This is someone who delays. If you repeatedly exercise, it reaches another conclusion. This is someone who trains. Behavior always teaches identity. Let's begin with one of the most common invisible habits. Procrastination. Most people believe procrastination is a time management problem. It isn't. It's an emotion management problem. You don't postpone work because you don't have enough time. You postpone it because the task feels uncomfortable. Maybe it feels difficult. Maybe it feels uncertain. Maybe you're afraid of failing. So your brain looks for relief. Instantly. You check your phone. You clean your desk. You answer unimportant emails. You suddenly remember something else that feels easier. Notice what happened. You didn't solve the discomfort. You escaped it. For a few minutes, that escape feels good. But when the distraction ends, the work is still waiting. Now, something worse appears. Guilt, stress, pressure. The task didn't become smaller. It became heavier. Procrastination always charges interest. Every hour you delay today becomes a larger burden tomorrow. That's why action is freedom. Delay is debt. You have a choice. Face a small discomfort now, or face a much larger discomfort later. That's the key. The next invisible habit is endless scrolling. Modern technology is remarkable. It connects people. It spreads knowledge. It creates opportunity. But it also creates addiction. Not because you're weak, because it was designed to capture your attention. Every swipe promises something new. A funny video, a shocking headline, a beautiful photograph, a surprising story. Your brain begins chasing novelty. One more swipe, one more video, one more minute. But it is rarely one more minute. It becomes an hour. Then another. At the end of that time, ask yourself one question. What did I actually gain? Most people struggle to answer, because consumption creates the illusion of progress. You feel busy. You feel informed. You feel entertained. Yet nothing in your actual life has changed. Knowledge without action is decoration. Action creates transformation. Remember that. You don't rise above your habits. You become them. Complaining is another habit that quietly reshapes identity. Pay attention to people who complain constantly. Traffic, weather, politics, co-workers, family, the economy. Someone always becomes responsible for their unhappiness. At first, complaining feels harmless. It even creates temporary connection. People bond over shared frustration. But eventually, something dangerous happens. Your brain begins searching for problems automatically. It becomes easier to notice what's wrong than what's possible. You stop seeing opportunities because you've trained yourself to look for obstacles. The disciplined mind asks a different question. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" it asks, "What can I do next?" One question creates helplessness. The other creates responsibility. Responsibility creates power. Complaining gives it away. You don't need their permission to stop complaining. You only need awareness. The next habit is even quieter. Negative self-talk. Listen carefully to the conversations happening inside your own mind. I always mess things up. I'm lazy. I'm terrible with money. I'll never change. I'm just not disciplined. At first, those thoughts feel like observations. They aren't. They're instructions. Your subconscious listens carefully to every sentence you repeat. Eventually, it begins acting accordingly. If you constantly tell yourself, "I never finish anything," your brain begins looking for evidence to prove that statement true. Then you quit another project. Not because the project was impossible, because your identity demanded consistency. Replace the language. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," say, "I'm learning to do this." Instead of, "I always fail," say, "I haven't mastered it yet." Those are not empty affirmations. They are accurate descriptions of growth. Words become beliefs. Beliefs become behaviors. Behaviors become identity. That's the key. Now let's talk about impulsive spending. Money is rarely just about money. It's about emotion. Many purchases have very little to do with need. They're responses to boredom, stress, loneliness, frustration, excitement. Retail therapy feels satisfying for a moment. Then reality returns. The excitement fades. The bill remains. The habit grows stronger. Every impulsive purchase teaches your brain the same lesson. When I feel uncomfortable, I consume. Replace that pattern. When stress appears, take a walk, read, journal, exercise. Call someone you care about. Build a new emotional response, because simply trying to stop spending rarely works. The habit leaves an empty space. That space must be filled intentionally. The same principle applies to emotional eating. Very few people eat because they're truly hungry all the time. Many eat because they're anxious, overwhelmed, sad, celebrating, avoiding. Food becomes emotional medication. Again, the issue isn't food. The issue is the pattern. Every habit serves a purpose. Remove the habit without replacing its purpose, and the old habit usually returns. That's why replacement is more powerful than removal. Never leave a vacuum. Nature doesn't tolerate empty space. Neither does your mind. If you stop scrolling, replace it with reading. If you stop complaining, replace it with gratitude. If you stop eating emotionally, replace it with movement or reflection. If you stop spending impulsively, replace it with investing. If you stop procrastinating, replace it with beginning for 5 minutes. Replacement is the secret, because habits cannot simply disappear. They must be redirected. Imagine pulling weeds from a garden. If you leave the soil empty, new weeds quickly appear. But if you plant flowers immediately, the weeds have far less room to grow. Your mind works exactly the same way. Plant intentionally. That's the key. You don't rise above your habits, you become them. People often ask why bad habits are so easy to build, while good habits require effort. The answer is simple. Bad habits usually provide immediate pleasure. Good habits usually provide delayed rewards. Scrolling feels good immediately. Reading pays you later. Spending feels exciting immediately. Saving rewards you later. Sleeping in feels comfortable immediately. Waking early creates opportunities later. The future is built by people willing to trade immediate comfort for lasting benefit. That's discipline, not punishment, investment. Every good habit is a deposit into your future. Every bad habit is a withdrawal. Eventually, your life reflects the balance. Look carefully at your daily routines, not your dreams, not your intentions, your routines, because your routines reveal your real priorities. People often say, "My goal is to become healthier." Then their habits tell another story. My goal is to become financially free. Yet every paycheck disappears. My goal is to become knowledgeable. Yet every evening ends with endless entertainment. Goals speak loudly. Habits whisper. But habits always win. You have a choice. Continue negotiating with destructive routines, or replace them one by one. Don't attempt to eliminate everything overnight. Remember what you've already learned. Small done every day defeats perfect done someday. Choose one habit. Replace it. Repeat. Then choose another. Transformation compounds. One better choice becomes 2. 2 become 10. 10 become a completely different identity. One day people will ask, "How did you become so disciplined?" They'll imagine there was one defining moment. There wasn't. There were thousands of ordinary replacements. Scrolling became reading. Complaining became gratitude. Avoidance became action. Consumption became creation. Excuses became standards. That's how identities are built. Quietly, patiently, repeatedly. Remember the truth that ties this entire chapter together. You don't rise above your habits. You become them. Every repeated action casts another vote. Every repeated action shapes your future. Every repeated action tells your subconscious who you are. Protect those votes carefully, because they are building the person you will become. Now that you've begun removing the habits that weaken you, it's time to build something even stronger. Because true transformation no longer depends on motivation once you stop focusing on what you do, and start focusing on who you are. Chapter 8. Build an identity that doesn't need motivation. For most of your life, you've probably been taught to focus on goals. Set bigger goals. Write down your goals. Visualize your goals. Chase your goals. Goals matter. But they are not enough, because goals have an ending. Identity does not. Think about it. What happens after someone reaches their goal? If they haven't changed who they believe they are, they often return to old habits. The person loses weight, then gains it back. The business owner reaches a financial milestone, then loses momentum. The student graduates, then stops learning. Why? Because the goal changed. The identity never did. Goals can change your circumstances. Identity changes your life. That's the key. You have a choice. You can spend your life chasing achievements, or you can become the kind of person for whom those achievements become inevitable. That is a completely different way of living. Don't ask what you feel like doing. Ask who you're becoming. Remember that. Don't ask what you feel like doing. Ask who you're becoming. Most people wake up and ask the wrong question. Do I feel like exercising today? Do I feel like reading? Do I feel like working? Do I feel like saving money? Notice what those questions have in common. They give your emotions the final vote. And emotions change every day. Some mornings you'll feel energized. Others you'll feel exhausted. Some days you'll feel confident. Others you'll doubt yourself. If your decisions depend on feelings, your identity will constantly shift. Now ask a different question. What would someone who takes care of their body do? What would someone who keeps promises do? What would someone who values discipline do? What would the future version of me choose right now? Immediately, the decision becomes clearer. Because identity removes negotiation. A person who identifies as a runner doesn't wake up wondering whether running is part of their life. It already is. A person who identifies as a reader doesn't debate opening a book. Reading is simply what they do. A person who identifies as reliable doesn't ask whether they should keep their word. Keeping their word is part of their identity. Identity turns difficult decisions into ordinary behavior. That's why identity is more powerful than motivation. Motivation asks, "How do I feel today?" Identity asks, "Who am I?" That's the key. Imagine two different people. The first says, "I want to exercise." The second says, "I am someone who trains every day." At first, the difference sounds small. It isn't. The first person has expressed a desire. The second has declared an identity. A desire can disappear. An identity demands consistency. When the first person feels tired, skipping a workout feels acceptable. After all, wanting something doesn't require action. But when the second person feels tired, something different happens. Skipping feels like betraying who they are. Because the issue is no longer exercise. The issue is identity. Identity creates internal accountability. No one has to force you. No one has to remind you. You remind yourself. That is freedom. Don't ask what you feel like doing. Ask who you're becoming. Let's use another example. Imagine someone saying, "I'm trying to quit smoking." Now imagine another person saying, "I don't smoke." The first sentence leaves the old identity alive. The second replaces it. The words you use matter. Not because words are magical, because words influence belief. Belief influences behavior. Behavior shapes identity. Every sentence you repeat becomes another instruction to your subconscious. Pay attention to how you describe yourself. "I've never been disciplined." "I always procrastinate." "I'm terrible with money." "I can't stay consistent." Those statements may feel honest, but they also become prisons. Instead, describe the person you're building. "I'm learning discipline." "I finish what I start." "I make thoughtful financial decisions." "I keep my promises." You're not pretending. You're practicing a new identity through repeated action. Remember what you've learned throughout this book. Action creates belief, not the other way around. Every promise kept becomes evidence. Small done every day defeats perfect done someday. Never allow zero. All of those principles exist for one reason: to strengthen identity. Because identity is the engine behind every lasting habit. Think about someone who keeps an exceptionally clean home. They don't spend every morning debating whether to clean. Tidying is automatic. It reflects who they believe they are. The same principle applies to health. Learning, discipline, kindness, generosity, leadership, confidence. Everything eventually becomes identity. People often admire highly disciplined individuals. They assume those people possess extraordinary willpower. But look closer. Many disciplined people no longer rely on willpower. They rely on identity. The decision has already been made. Years ago. Every action afterward simply reinforces it. That's why your environment matters so much. If you constantly surround yourself with people whose identity revolves around excuses, those excuses begin to feel normal. If everyone complains, you'll complain. If everyone procrastinates, delaying becomes acceptable. If everyone settles, mediocrity begins to feel comfortable. Identity is contagious. Choose your environment carefully. You don't need their permission to become someone different. Some people will question your new habits. They'll say you've changed. They're right. You're supposed to change. Growth always changes identity. If nothing about you changes, neither will your future. That's the key. Let's make this practical. Every morning for the remainder of these 21 days, begin with one simple question. Who am I becoming today? Not next year. Not someday. Today. Then allow that answer to guide every decision. When the alarm rings, who are you becoming? When unhealthy food appears, who are you becoming? When procrastination whispers, who are you becoming? When someone tests your patience. Who are you becoming? One question, repeated throughout the day. It becomes a compass. The more often you ask it, the less often you'll rely on motivation. Because identity simplifies decisions. Imagine your future self watching today's choices. Would they thank you, or wish you had chosen differently? That future version isn't imaginary. You're creating them right now. With every habit, every conversation, every purchase, every morning, every evening, every decision. Your future identity is under construction, brick by brick, moment by moment. Most people think identity changes after success. The opposite is true. Success usually follows identity. Someone becomes disciplined, then achieves. Someone becomes patient, then builds wealth. Someone becomes courageous, then takes opportunities others avoid. The internal transformation comes first. The external results follow. Never reverse the order. Don't chase confidence. Become someone who acts. Don't chase discipline. Become someone who keeps promises. Don't chase success. Become someone who creates value consistently. Results are consequences. Identity is the cause. You have a choice. Continue living as the person your past created, or deliberately become the person your future requires. No one else can make that decision. No one else can build that identity. Not your family, not your friends, not your circumstances. Only you. Every day, your actions cast another vote. Eventually, the votes become undeniable. One day, you'll realize something remarkable. You no longer need to force yourself. You no longer need motivational speeches every morning. You no longer wait until inspiration arrives. You simply act. Not because every task became enjoyable, because the person you have become no longer argues with discipline. Discipline has become normal. That is the greatest transformation this book can offer. Don't ask what you feel like doing. Ask who you're becoming. Repeat that until it becomes the loudest voice in your mind. Because once your identity changes, your habits change. When your habits change, your future changes. And when your future changes, the life you once imagined slowly becomes the life you quietly live every day. You have learned how to become someone who no longer depends on motivation. Now it is time to make sure every single day ends with proof that your new identity is real, because lasting confidence is built one completed day at a time. Chapter 9. Finish every day with proof. How you end your day is almost as important as how you begin it. Most people understand the importance of mornings. Very few understand the power of evenings. Yet every night, your brain asks one silent question: what kind of person was I today? It doesn't ask how many dreams you have. It doesn't ask what you hope to accomplish next year. It asks what you actually did. Because your subconscious never rewards intentions. It rewards evidence. That's why every completed day matters. Not because one day changes your life, because one day becomes another vote for the person you're becoming. Win today. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Remember those words. Win today. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Most people go to bed carrying unfinished thoughts. I should have done more. I wasted too much time. I'll fix everything tomorrow. Then tomorrow arrives. Nothing changes, not because they lack desire, because they never paused long enough to learn from yesterday. Without reflection, every day begins to resemble the one before it. Weeks pass, months pass, years pass. The calendar changes, the person doesn't. That's the danger of living on autopilot. You have a choice. Repeat yesterday, or learn from it. That's the key. Think about elite athletes. After every competition, They review performance. What worked? What failed? What needs adjustment? Businesses do the same. Pilots do the same. Military teams do the same. The highest performers in every field understand something simple. Improvement requires feedback. So why do so many people finish each day without giving themselves any? They simply hope tomorrow will be better. Hope is valuable. Reflection is powerful. Hope without reflection becomes repetition. Reflection creates progress. Win today. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Let's make this practical. Every evening, before you sleep, ask yourself 3 questions. The first question: what did I finish today? Notice the wording. Not. What did I attempt? Not. What did I plan? What did I finish? Completed actions matter. Maybe you finished a workout. Maybe you read 10 pages. Maybe you had the difficult conversation. Maybe you resisted an unnecessary purchase. Maybe you simply kept the promises you made that morning. Acknowledge those victories. Many people skip this step. They believe celebrating small wins creates complacency. The opposite is true. Recognizing progress strengthens identity. Every completed task whispers the same message. I finish what I start. Every promise kept becomes evidence. Never forget that. The second question: what distracted me today? Notice that this isn't about blame. It's about awareness. Did endless scrolling steal an hour? Did unnecessary worry consume your attention? Did procrastination delay meaningful work? Did negative thinking shape your decisions? Be honest, not cruel. There is a difference. Honesty creates improvement. Self-condemnation creates paralysis. Don't attack yourself. Study yourself. That's the key. The third question: what will I improve tomorrow? Only one thing, not 20. Remember everything you've learned throughout this journey. Small done every day defeats perfect done someday. Choose one improvement. Wake up 10 minutes earlier. Read before checking your phone. Drink more water. Finish the difficult task first. Listen more. Complain less. One improvement, repeated tomorrow. Then another. Reflection compounds growth. Think about compound interest. Small deposits seem insignificant at first, but over time, growth accelerates. Reflection works the same way. One lesson learned today prevents one mistake tomorrow. One mistake prevented tomorrow creates another opportunity the following day. Eventually, small improvements become extraordinary transformation. The person who improves by 1% each day eventually becomes almost unrecognizable, not because of one dramatic breakthrough, because of consistent reflection. Win today. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Many people make one dangerous mistake every evening. They measure themselves against perfection. I didn't finish everything. I wasn't productive enough. I should have done more. Perfection is a moving target. Evidence is real. Did you become slightly better today? Did you keep one promise? Did you move one step forward? If the answer is yes, celebrate the evidence. Progress creates confidence. Perfection creates frustration. Remember what this book has been teaching you from the beginning. Action creates belief, not the other way around. Every promise kept becomes evidence. Never allow zero. Don't ask what you feel like doing. Ask who you're becoming. Every one of those lessons points toward the same destination. Daily proof. Identity isn't built through positive thinking alone. Identity is built through accumulated evidence. Imagine building a wall. Every brick seems insignificant. One brick doesn't protect you. One brick doesn't impress anyone. But after enough days, enough bricks, the wall stands strong. Each completed day becomes another brick. Miss one brick. Continue tomorrow. Don't abandon the wall. Keep building. People often underestimate the psychological power of finishing. An unfinished task occupies mental space. A completed task creates mental freedom. That's why crossing something off your list feels satisfying. Completion releases energy. Your brain loves closure. Give it closure intentionally. Finish something every day, even if it's small, especially if it's small. Small victories train a finishing mindset. A finishing mindset creates extraordinary lives. Let's talk about momentum. Momentum is fragile. Ignore it for too long and it disappears. Protect it consistently and it becomes one of your greatest advantages. Think of pushing a heavy boulder. The first push feels impossible. The second is slightly easier. Eventually, the boulder rolls with surprising force. Your daily wins work exactly the same way. Every completed day makes tomorrow's discipline easier. Every abandoned day makes tomorrow's excuses louder. You have a choice. Protect momentum or restart repeatedly. The cost of restarting is always greater than the cost of continuing. That's why consistency matters more than intensity. Remember the days when you didn't feel motivated, yet you still completed the smallest version of your habit. Those days mattered most, not because the achievement was large, because the identity became stronger. A disciplined life isn't built on extraordinary days. It's built on ordinary days, completed intentionally. Don't underestimate ordinary. Ordinary repeated becomes extraordinary. Now imagine finishing every evening with peace instead of regret. Not because everything went perfectly, because you know you honored your standards. That feeling cannot be purchased. It cannot be borrowed. It cannot be given by someone else. It must be earned every single day. Through action. You don't need anyone to congratulate you. You already know what you accomplished. Your confidence grows quietly. Your discipline deepens quietly. Your identity strengthens quietly. Then one day, people begin asking, what changed? They only see the results. They never witnessed the evenings, the reflection, the honesty, the tiny adjustments, the quiet victories. Those invisible moments built everything visible. That's the key. Tonight, before you sleep, don't immediately reach for another distraction. Pause, take a notebook, or simply sit in silence. Ask yourself the 3 questions. What did I finish? What distracted me? What will I improve tomorrow? Answer honestly. Then let the day end. Without guilt. Without excuses. Only with clarity. Because clarity creates better decisions. Better decisions create better days. Better days create better lives. Win today. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Repeat those words every evening. Every completed day becomes another brick. Every brick strengthens your foundation. Every foundation supports a stronger identity. And once enough evidence has been collected, something extraordinary happens. You no longer see yourself as someone trying to change. You finally become someone who has changed. That brings us to the final lesson. Because these 21 days were never meant to be a temporary challenge. They were meant to become the beginning of a permanent identity. Chapter 10. Become the person who never stops. After day 21. If you've reached this point, something important has already happened. Not because you listened to another audiobook, not because you've collected more information, but because you've stayed with the process. That matters. In a world where most people quit quickly, you continued. That alone is evidence. Evidence that something inside you has already begun to change. But now comes the most important lesson of all. The 21 days were never the goal. They never were. The goal was never to survive 3 weeks. The goal was never to complete a challenge. The goal was never to check another box. The goal was always identity. Because 21 days by themselves do not change a life. Identity changes a life, and identity changes the future. That's the key. Most people misunderstand challenges. They believe success means reaching the finish line. Then they celebrate. Relax. Return to old habits. Within weeks, everything disappears. Not because the challenge failed, because the identity never changed. Imagine someone training for a marathon. After months of discipline, they finish the race. Then they stop moving completely. Eventually, their fitness disappears. The marathon wasn't enough. The identity needed to continue. The same thing happens with every area of life. People finish a diet, then return to old eating habits. People complete a financial plan, then return to impulsive spending. People finish reading one great book, then stop learning. Temporary effort always produces temporary results. Permanent identity produces permanent transformation. You have a choice. Treat these 21 days like an event, or treat them like the beginning of who you are becoming. Those are two completely different futures. Remember everything you've learned. Action creates belief, not the other way around. Every promise kept becomes evidence. Never allow zero. Small done every day defeats perfect done someday. Guard your attention because your attention becomes your life. Discomfort is not danger. It is evidence that you're expanding. You don't rise above your habits. You become them. Don't ask what you feel like doing. Ask who you're becoming. Win today. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Notice something remarkable. Every lesson points toward the same destination. Identity. Every habit. Every decision. Every morning. Every evening. Every uncomfortable moment. Every promise kept. Every distraction resisted. Every small victory. They've all been shaping the same thing. Who you are. Not who you wish to become. Who you repeatedly prove yourself to be. That's why this journey can never truly end. Identity is not a destination. It's a practice. Think about breathing. You don't breathe deeply for 21 days and then stop forever. You don't brush your teeth for 21 days and declare the job finished. You don't build one meaningful relationship and never invest in it again. The best parts of life require maintenance. So does character. Discipline isn't something you complete. It's something you continue. That's the key. People often ask what separates highly successful individuals from everyone else. Is it intelligence? Sometimes. Is it talent? Occasionally. Is it luck? Perhaps. But beneath all of those advantages lies something much simpler. They refuse to restart from zero. That's the difference. When they miss one workout, they don't quit. When they have one unhealthy meal, they don't abandon healthy living. When they waste one afternoon, they don't waste the entire week. They return immediately. They understand one powerful truth. Missing once is an accident. Missing repeatedly becomes identity. That's why they never allow one mistake to become permission for another. Imagine climbing a mountain. You stumble. You don't return to the bottom. You regain your balance, then continue climbing. Life works the same way. Progress is rarely perfect. Consistency doesn't require perfection. It requires returning. Returning again, and again, and again. People who build extraordinary lives are not people who never fall. They are people who never stay down. You have already learned this. Now live it. There will be mornings when your discipline disappears. There will be evenings when your habits weaken. There will be seasons when life becomes overwhelming. Family responsibilities, financial pressure, unexpected illness, loss, disappointment. No one escapes difficulty. The question has never been, will life become hard? The question is, who will you become when life becomes hard? That answer determines everything, because discipline built during easy seasons prepares you for difficult ones. Character is revealed under pressure, not comfort. Remember Chapter 6. Discomfort is not danger. It is evidence that you're expanding. Those words will become even more valuable in the years ahead. As your goals grow, your discomfort will grow. As your responsibilities increase, your challenges will increase. As your opportunities expand, your fears may expand as well. Good. That means you're still growing. Don't run from it. Walk toward it. You've spent these 21 days building something invisible. Standards. Standards outlive motivation. Motivation asks, do I feel like it? Standards answer, this is simply what I do. One question creates inconsistency. The other creates identity. Guard those standards carefully. Because once standards become negotiable, habits begin to disappear. And once habits disappear, identity slowly follows. Protect your standards. Not because someone is watching, because you are. One of the greatest moments in personal growth arrives quietly. There is no applause, no ceremony, no dramatic celebration. It happens the first time you automatically make the disciplined choice without debating it. You wake up before the alarm. You choose the healthy meal without internal conflict. You open the book instead of the phone. You finish the task before seeking entertainment, not because you forced yourself, because that's simply who you are now. That moment changes everything. Discipline has become identity, and identity is remarkably difficult to break. That's why these 21 days matter. Not because they magically transformed your future, because they introduced you to a different version of yourself, a version that already existed beneath years of excuses, a version that didn't need perfect conditions, didn't need endless motivation, didn't need permission, only evidence, and you've been collecting evidence every single day. Every promise kept became evidence. Every morning won became evidence. Every distraction resisted became evidence. Every uncomfortable decision became evidence. Every completed evening became evidence. Look back at the person who began this journey. They were waiting, negotiating, hoping, imagining. Now look at the person finishing it. They act. They decide. They return. They continue. That difference is identity. Never underestimate it. The world often celebrates dramatic transformations, the viral success story, the overnight millionaire, the unbelievable comeback. But the strongest lives are usually built so quietly that almost nobody notices until years later. People see the results. They don't see the mornings, the books, the walks, the conversations, the discipline, the repeated choices. They only see the harvest. They never saw the seeds. You did. You know where real change begins. It begins in ordinary moments, repeated consistently, without applause, without guarantees, without certainty. Just one decision after another. That's the life you've been building. You have a choice. You can close this audiobook and return to the person you were, or you can let this become your new standard. Not for 21 days, for the rest of your life. Because this journey was never about becoming perfect. It was about becoming dependable. Dependable people don't wait for motivation. They create momentum. Dependable people don't chase confidence. They earn self-trust. Dependable people don't fear discomfort. They welcome growth. Dependable people don't rely on extraordinary effort. They rely on extraordinary consistency. That is now your responsibility, not mine. No book can live your life for you. No speaker can make your decisions. No mentor can build your habits. Only you can do that. Every sunrise will ask the same question. Who are you becoming today? Every evening will ask another. What evidence did you collect today? Answer those questions honestly. Day after day. Year after year. Then one morning, you'll wake up inside a life that once seemed impossible. Not because of luck, not because of talent, but because you became the kind of person capable of creating it. Remember the truth that ties this entire audiobook together. Action creates belief, not the other way around. Every promise kept becomes evidence. Small done every day defeats perfect done someday. Never allow zero. Guard your attention because your attention becomes your life. Discomfort is not danger. It is evidence that you're expanding. You don't rise above your habits. You become them. Don't ask what you feel like doing. Ask who you're becoming. Win today. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Carry those principles with you, not as motivational quotes, as personal standards, as your identity, as the foundation beneath every decision you make from this day forward. And before you leave, remember one final truth. This isn't the end of 21 days. It never was. This isn't the finish line. It is the starting line. It is proof that you are capable of becoming someone who keeps going long after the excitement disappears. Someone who chooses discipline when nobody is watching. Someone who refuses to return to zero. Someone who quietly builds an extraordinary life through ordinary days. So tomorrow morning, don't think of it as starting over. Don't think of it as another challenge. Think of it as exactly what it is. This isn't the end of 21 days. It's day 22 of your new life. If you've made it this far, understand something important. Nothing magical happened during these 21 days. You simply became someone different. You learned that discipline is stronger than emotion, that consistency beats intensity, that small actions repeated daily eventually become an entirely new identity. You stopped waiting for confidence. You created confidence. You stopped chasing motivation. You built momentum. Remember this. Your future will never be created in one extraordinary moment. It will always be built through ordinary days, repeated with extraordinary consistency. So tomorrow morning, don't ask yourself whether you feel motivated. Ask yourself whether you're willing to become the person you promised yourself you would become. The next 21 days begin again tomorrow. The question is simple. Will you repeat your excuses? Or will you repeat the habits that create the life you've always wanted? The decision is yours. Make day 1 count.